In the 90s, Playmates Toys made the deepest line of Star Trek action figures in history. My name's Keith, and I'm a collector working towards owning all 284. I've been a Trek fan for almost 35 years, and most people are sick of me talking about it. But somehow I've convinced my old friend Mike to review them with me on Look at My Star Trek Toys! What's up, everybody? I waited for the whoosh! Welcome back to Look at My Star Trek Toys. Folks, if you are new here because you're checking out the new Prodigy figures, we do a show about Star Trek toys, almost usually specifically Playmates 90s 4.5-inch action figures right here every week in our feed. You can see reviews of almost the entire 90s line as I finish out my collection, as well as amazing customs and custom play sets. So you can check out all of our feed here if you're new. Also, before we do our regular chit chat, I can also remind you who maybe you don't want that and you want to cut straight to looking at the Prodigy figures. There are chapters down below here so you can skip all of our nonsense. So go ahead and do that. All right, cool kids who stuck around for our nonsense. Welcome. How's it going, Mike?
It's going great, Keith. Always excited to share a little toy time with you this week. We got to talk about this because I think it was but a day or two ago when I asked you, what's going on with the Prodigy figs? I want to get me some of them as I'm setting up a new shelf. Don't tell anybody. I got a bunch of new Deep Space Nine toys, so I'm setting up a thing. I wanted to add some more Playmates stuff, but apparently they're shuffling and they're pipping and popping, Keith. So we got to talk about it today.
They are indeed. Yeah, no, I wish that I had some actual hard news for everybody out there directly from Playmates, because we've been communicating with them for a while now, but they've gone radio silent in the last 4 or 5 months, so hard to say what's going on. However, today we have images from I'm assuming, the final versions, or at least pretty close to the final versions of the figures, found by our good friend JD from JD Makes, link down below, who has contributed so much to the show, including links to these figures that he found on Amazon. Now, these are not available as of the filming of this on April 7th. They say just not available on Amazon, but the listing has been built out. I couldn't find them if I searched. I don't know how JD found them. JD's sort of a genius for these sort of things. So thank you for helping us find this and creating this episode for us. So so who knows? These look like they're much closer to the final production versions of the figures, although I have some questions which lead me to believe that there may be some changes yet to come before they eventually go on sale, but these feel like the final production shots. Who the heck knows? But so we're grateful to JD for the information. Mike, who else are we grateful to?
As always, Keith, this show could not be produced, brought to you without the continued patronage of our Patreon and our patrons. You can see here they are divided by pips. We got Brian Kaufman, Casey Clark, Brandon Joshua, Andrew Hayes, Jorge Navoa, and the Mysterious Wharfs, Boot Shivs, Richard Coleman, Charles Babbage, CRM Productions, Nikolay Ivanovich Lobachevsky at Grim_Toys, Delusions at Noon, JD Makes, Colin Dagan, Chris Mitchell, and Pat. And longtime viewers will recognize I didn't even attempt to wrap them today.
Thankfully, I'm sure they are all very grateful. You can join them at patreon.com/K&M and get all sorts of fun bonus material. We have to do an AMA pretty soon.
We do.
So those are fun. We do episodes of Next Gen and the animated series and other unboxings and toys and who the heck knows, play-alongs, whatever. It's all there. You can also support us by giving us a super thanks below right here on YouTube. It's basically a tip. There's no commitment beyond that. And we very much appreciate it, including our good friend Sans Deity, who has as our latest contributor on the tip system. All right, so now what do you say? Let's loop in all those folks who skipped and say hi back and take a look at the first figure from the Prodigy line. But before we do that, let's take a look at what they have officially released that these figures are going to look like. And we did a video about these, talking through each of these the figures here. We have Zero, Dal R'el, Jankom Pog, and Gwyndala here as the prototype figures. And so we may refer back to this as we work through them for the similarities and differences to the final production.
I recall we were pretty jazzed, Keith, because I love colorful, I love cartoony. I wanted to, and I thought it was a cool change up for them to be able to be a little bit more creative, a little more zany, because they're working in the animated realm. But looks like they've made some fine tuning available.
Some fine tuning, or the deletion of some fine tuning, but we understand, prototypes and then the production model, they're a little different. So let's take a look at least what is on Amazon for Zero. So here is what looks to be the final production version of Zero and the 5-inch scale. And so we're going to get to look at the figures in detail, as well as their choking hazards. So we can see here, the first and most obvious difference is the detail in the paint has been removed. The prototype images they put out had a lot of sort of shading and that sort of thing, and this is more of like the flat colors. I think it still looks pretty cool, but I mean, obviously they're not in a position to do that level of fine detail. So customizers out there will be able to go in and brush that in. Mike, what do you think?
I think it looks great. I think one thing that suits this character really well is there's clearly a ton of articulation. Looks like we're getting a lot of rotation articulation, a lot of bendy bends. And the other thing I noticed, Keith, aside from pretty cool choking hazards, is, and I like the little claw grip. That gives you a lot of options there. Even the stand looks a little less flimsy, perhaps, than we've seen on the 2022/3 models.
Well, at least it's gold and not gray.
Yeah.
Which I definitely appreciate. And yeah, I mean, you can see there's tons of articulation points, which they had promised us. But you can see, the fun thing about the Prodigy figures is that they're just going to have way more variation than the standard figures, because they're all not humanoid. So you have different scales, different articulations. And so from a design standpoint, it was a lot more difficult than just swapping heads and legs for a lot of the other figures. So I think it's pretty cool.
Now, I guess from a more zoomed out perspective, my question would be, and I don't have the answers to this, I haven't really looked it up, but like, what has reception been? What is the demo of the Prodigy show? I've heard from our viewers when I was looking into it that it is definitely more kid skewed as far as content. Yeah. But is it popular? When does it air? Is it airing? It airs on Nickelodeon?
It's on Nickelodeon and Paramount Plus, I believe.
Yeah, well, I mean, I imagine it's going to reach kids more on Nickelodeon. That would be my guess. But is it popular? I mean, because we've noticed, along with our viewers, that generally the Trek figures, the Playmate Trek figures, are now getting shelving in the more collectors area of the stores, at least in Walmart and Target that I've seen. I'm wondering if maybe they'll get some more retail actual shelf space when we get to these toys that are more skewed towards children.
Well, I mean, it's tough to say, because the popularity of the show is not the same thing as shelf space.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it seems like it's pretty popular. It has been renewed for season 2. So we're definitely going to get more, but shelf space in the Target, right? That's very expensive. And Playmates is not a giant company. It's not Mattel. So battling for shelf space is going to be a thing. So I don't know if it's going to be placed in a different place because it's the Prodigy figures. But I don't know. I really don't know what their budget like, what their expenditures are going to be like.
Well, also, to go back to the figure itself, the box. Did we talk about this before? The box does seem like it's staying in line with the disco boxing.
Yeah, with the contemporary STU boxes, it does look like that. Also, the international packaging for the other, figures, But I mean, I think the box looks great.
For sure.
It's really cool. I'm glad in the listing here we get the full package, front and back. They've got the QR code, the for parents only. I don't know why it's for parents only. Like if you go to the QR code, it just goes to the Playmates website. Like it doesn't, it's not linking to like adult material. But ooh, we're gonna save it for the official review when we get our hands on the figures. But I'm really curious to see if we find our traditional Playmates typo on the box at some point.
Now, I wonder if the QR code's kind of interesting. The parents only thing is weird, but the QR code is an interesting choice because it does give them options. I think that if you make that link to like a forwarding page, it allows you to change where that QR code sends people depending on different assets they might have available or promotions they might be running at the time. So it does add them some flexibility.
And it also, just looking at the QR code there, it reinforces that as far as JD could find, and I did not find elsewhere, we're not getting the Janeway figure at the same time as these figures, despite seeing her right there. So I know it's coming, but I don't think it's coming out in this first wave because there's only 4 of them that JD found, and so I know it was developed a little bit later. So I'm unclear. I don't really know what the story is. But let's look at the front of the package again, because we should address. So the choking hazards are pretty. There's just 2 of them. He's got the pad. He's got the sort of the hand pad and the little computer thing. Upgraded from the regular line because it has the little stickers on them, which back in the 90s, some of them had the stickers, some of them didn't have the stickers. Obviously, it's a little more expensive and labor intensive to put the stickers in, which I definitely appreciate because I think it really adds to it. So, looks pretty good. Looks like it comes with a Prodigy Supernova in-game unlock. Is there a Prodigy Supernova game?
Yep, it's on sale currently, 50% off. It's a Nintendo Switch game, also available on PC and Steam.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm glad. See, you were completely with me.
Yeah, man.
All right. So, I mean, other than the, obviously they can't paint it like they did the prototype, which would have been amazing, but I think beyond their abilities, I think it looks pretty good for a $12, $13, $14 toy.
Yeah,
for sure.
Colorful as all heck. If I'm a kid, we've talked about this many times in the past, I'm gravitating right towards it. Now, it is kind of just like a ball. It's very much a Pokeball with legs, but I imagine the character on the show, which I have not watched, is very funny.
Has a lot of personality to it, for sure. All right, well then let's continue forward. Let's look at Dal R'el. And so here is the Dal R'el figure. Similar limitations to the paint. We don't get the shading we got in the prototype, but you can see they do have a fair amount of detail work in his hair paint there with the sculpt that we've seen. Looks pretty good. The articulation looks like it's going to be really fun. I love the utility belt and the double phasers, which they say they're going to have the Prodigy phaser as a prop toy coming out at some point. Who knows when, because Playmates doesn't talk about what they're doing anymore. But again, I like the stand better gold than I did gray with the other ones. That was sort of a common complaint. But Mike, as we look through this figure, especially when you show the back, what's missing in this listing?
What's missing? Okay, well, number one, I will say I do want to point out that aside from just the design choices and the color of the being the difference, the thing that this wave, this line gives us that we didn't get as much in a lot of the other Playmates Star Trek figures we've seen, contemporary, old school, is just the ability to expand costuming, right? Like we're getting different boots here, which are kind of cool and have some texture and have some dimension. The different hair sculpts, which we generally have to wait for our modders to do some cool hair instead.
Yeah.
But now we're getting it here, the different gloves, the different costuming, the skin coloring. It's just so much, there's so much more vibrance that is pretty exciting. And does Blob Guy come with the figure?
Yeah, Murph comes with the figure.
That's cool. Keith, I'm imagining you're referencing the trademarking.
Yeah. Where's all the copyright text? Which I'm assuming means another reason why this is not the final production, because as they mentioned before, it's mandatory to put that writing on there. So it
Unless
is
they got
it
on the bottom of his foot and to go against what they said, which was that there's just too much legalese to get on the feet.
Yeah, well that'll be interesting. I would put my money in these corporate times that they just didn't put it on the images on Amazon, but it's going to come on the figure. But we'll see. Again, like the box, like the packaging, I think because we're getting Murph there, the only choking hazards you get are the dual phasers, but that's frankly the only choking hazard I'd care about anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, the packing's
so
cool.
I think that looks cool, looks fun. It's the standard. It's the same packaging. They have sort of a universal packaging scheme for these 4 figures. I'm
interested to see what is that like a little booklet behind them?
I think that's the game unlock code. That's like the for the Prodigy
my guess
game.
Is if I had to, I don't know for sure, but my guess is that you're going to get like a costume or something, like a cosmetic upgrade in the game. Nothing fancy, but
yeah, well, yeah, probably, but yeah, who knows?
Gotta tell you, the game looks pretty cool. But of course, I'm only ever holding it up against that 1990s crappy point and click we are trying to play.
That's true. Which we have to finish. We definitely have to finish.
You can tell we're really enjoying it.
If you want to watch us struggle through that game for 5 hours, it's also in our feed. Go back to the figure itself in the back, because I was wondering, are they going to be able to do the rat tail? And they do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. Mike, did you ever sport a rat tail back in the day?
No, I did had a lot of dippity do, and I plastered it down, basically making myself have Lego hair, but I never rat tailed it. Thank goodness.
I am ashamed to admit here to the world on the internet that I did the natural transition, the 80s transition. I went straight from a mullet to a rat tail because it's really easy with a mullet. You just cut off the sides and boom, you got a rat tail. And that explains a great deal about me to the world. All right, let's keep going. Let's look at Jankom Pog.
All right.
Which I think is going to be one of my... Got to cycle through. You can do it. Definitely going to be a favorite figure, yes. I think.
I'm always a big fan of characters who have the interchangeable hand, right? Like the figure where you can pop it off, put a weapon on or whatnot. I'm thinking about Inspector Gadget. I'm thinking about, if anybody Final Fantasy VII players out there, Barrett, the character, had a gun hand. I always love a good gun hand.
Gun hand.
Weapon hand, you know what I mean? Is that a phaser he's got on his hand, or is that a 1990s VHS camera?
I don't know for sure, but I definitely, you know what? We're gonna go Canon for our show. It's not a Canon, it's a Canon VHS camcorder.
So in the right hand, he's shooting Wrath of Niner, in the left hand, he's extracting a molar.
Exactly. But I think it looks great.
Awesome.
I'm really, really curious how they fill the void, right? Obviously it's not going to be solid plastic all the way through, and whether or not it's able to be sturdy with all of that, with all the void inside, like all of us, right?
Interesting. I didn't really think about that. How what you would hope it has a little more heft than the other figures.
Right, which I'm not sure if it would, because that's expensive, right? You can't just fill that whole space with plastic. But he's got some great choking hazards. He's got the camcorder. He's got Thor's hammer, and he's got the tooth extractor.
Also, it looks like his belt is like all of their belt. It's definitely molded on, but it looks like it's Also, maybe separate a little. Like the little holsters on the side are definitely detached.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's a lot of figure going on there. I'm curious. I think they said I try to ask, but they're gone now. What the if this is the same price point as the other figures, which I'm assuming probably.
Well, you think about, and this is another reason I just love. I've said it ad nauseum now, but that I'm loving this line is that each individual figure has completely different articulation conceptually different articulation.
Mm-hmm.
They've rethought how they're going to articulate each character based on their size, based on their mobility. And
he's not going to have knee articulation because it doesn't have knees.
Right, but he's got definitely has more arm articulation, bigger arms, and the hand looks like it rotates and whatnot. But also, think about the production of these. Like in a lot of the Star Trek figures, they were reusing legs, they were reusing some arms. They could cut costs that way. Here, not so much the case, which is probably why it's a more limited line.
I mean, for now,
wave, I should say.
Yeah. And there's only 4 figures in this wave that we can tell, which is interesting, to leave out half of your cast. But they did that with all the others. So what are you gonna do? Anyway, I'm excited about Jankom Pog. I think it's a fun character. It's gonna be a fun figure. That's definitely where the branding is gonna go. They haven't put there. And you can see just the scale.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's a little shorter, but like it takes up that whole package there. So that will be that's gonna be fun. It's also got your game on lock. So I don't know. We're gonna see. The back, I'm assuming, will be the same as all the rest of them.
Keith, I got some bad news and good news. I was trying to see if there was maybe on Nickelodeon if they had started airing a commercial for these yet. And no commercial, but the good news is that when you Google Star Trek Prodigy action figures, guess who the first result is?
It's us, baby.
It's us, which just made me feel weird, but and not necessarily good.
No, it's great.
It's great.
It's great. They have no choice but to associate themselves with our mediocrity.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I like this one. I think it's the one I'm looking forward to most, as just like you think.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's look at Gwyndala.
Looks like the DVD
Gwyndala
is official. They're releasing the DVD. There is now on Blu-ray and DVD. Season 1, Keith.
Season 1. Oh yeah. I mean, I think the show's doing well.
Over 75 minutes of special features. Wow, it looks awesome.
Well, I'm surprised. This is one that it's probably relatively safe to watch.
I think I'm going to. People were telling me I should get into Lower Decks first, but I think this is where I like a kid cartoon, man.
Lower Decks is pretty spoilery, though.
Okay, well, I'm going to go into Prodigy. I'll let you know what I think.
Yeah. See what happens. All right. Well, let's look at the last one.
All right.
So here is Gwyndala.
Is that a
Interesting. It looks like a batleth made of like a Parmesan cheese crisp.
It's batleth adjacent.
It is the most delicious looking batleth I've ever seen.
Unless you're lactose intolerant.
But good on you for knowing what a batleth is. Mike is growing. He's changing.
That's true.
He's becoming a big. If you're not watching, Keith and Mike watch Deep Space Nine, our Deep Space Nine review show. You're missing out. So all of her choking hazards are made of Parmesan cheese.
I mean, the other weapon's kind of cool. That definitely is someone's going to choke on
the sword.
That's spelling death for a pet somewhere. My dog ate what?
Right.
And then what is that? A shield, I guess, on the bottom left.
It's a shield.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the figure looks good. I like the sort of like arm tattoo going on there.
Yeah.
The detail in the hair, painting the sort of braids or clips.
She seems to be the most Jedi of all of the
super Jedi.
Yeah.
Well, and that was I've really only seen the first like 3 episodes, but like especially the pilot, I was like, oh, this is like basically Star Wars.
Well, they
do get to the trek of it all.
The Clone Wars, that whole series of animated series was so popular. I'm sure they wanted to ape that a little bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I mean, figure looks good. Figure looks cool. Looks like it's got good articulation, and unlike the Wave 5 of the Playmates, she's able to make the big wide stance, but not forced to make the big weird wide stance there. So, and the box is the same box.
I think that the design really lends itself to cool packaging.
Yeah, well, I mean, the colors are great, and they're just like a lot of like blue and purple and red.
It's a cereal box, basically.
Yeah, no, totally. Looks action packed, lots of movement. So I think I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to these. Honestly,
when were they supposed to come out?
They were supposed to come out, I think, the fall, weren't they? Or they were supposed to come out last summer. Definitely supposed to be out by now, right? Now, we did a whole video about this.
We should make it clear. We have not. It's not for lack of trying that we reached out to Playmates.
No, we 100% have reached out, and many other people have reached out and have not heard anything. So it's unclear. Yeah, look up. I don't remember when we said they were going to come out before.
They are available. They are available for pre-order on Big Bad Toys.
Right. Well, pre-order doesn't mean anything.
Estimated to arrive second quarter 2023.
Okay, which would be coming up real soon.
Yeah. We just closed Q1 at work, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they've built out the Amazon pages for these, I would imagine they'll be released pretty soon.
Now, hold on. Let me check to see. So it looks like we are getting the render that we are getting what appears to be the figures on this. Yeah, okay. So on all these websites that I'm seeing pre-orders, it does appear to be the pictures that JD provided. But included in a lot of these is also the Janeway.
The prototype of the Janeway. Because like a lot of those, they're pre-ordering, but a lot of those pictures are the prototype pictures, not these ones. I don't know. It's tough to say. Look, if we get more information, we will come right back and give you whatever information we have.
Wait, hold on.
Unfortunately,
hold on. Entertainment Earth. Right. This is entertainmentearth.com.
Okay.
Entertainmentearth.com is listing April 2023 as a release date.
Well, it's April 2023.
And they are listing all 4 action figures and the Janeway. So,
all right. Well, we'll see. Well, if this comes out tomorrow when we release this, huzzah! Well, then all of our mysteries will be solved. But if not, you'll have something to tease for you. So that's all the information we have yet. I'm going to reach out to Playmates again. Hopefully we'll get more updates, and we want to know more about what's coming.
Hold on, though, friends.
What is happening over there?
I have to just, hold on. Let me save this image. So obviously grain of salt. But let me share you the picture on all of these websites. What I'm seeing for the Janeway, no articulation. Yeah, that is definitely a computer rendering.
Yeah, that's because I've seen that, and that's why I don't think that's legit. I don't think that's because there's a lot of fakes out there. There's a lot of stuff that hasn't been fully rendered out there. I would not put a lot of weight into that.
Okay.
But who knows? But all right. Well, if they get released, we will definitely be reaching out to Playmates, getting more information. Hopefully, we'll be getting reviewer copies once these are out, so we can actually unbox and do full reviews of each of these figures. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. Please check out our other shows. We have a Deep Space Nine show. We do K&M Geekly every week. Both of those are available on podcast versions as well. If you don't want to stare at us staring at our computers, you have options. While you're here, please give us a like and a subscribe. It really does help us. And, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/KNM. We'll see you back here next week with another episode of fantastic custom figures. Till then, this has been... Look at my Star Trek toys!